So things have now shaken out, and you're getting a stream of replies to your initial messages. Now, don't worry right now if this stream is just a trickle, that's fine. By sending out high volume, you should still have plenty to work with. And now it's going to be a process of attrition to whittle these responses down to the girls who are actually going to meet up and possibly hook up with you. So this is going to be the next stage of the funnel, the ensuing conversation. So the game doesn't really change here. She's got to the second stage, and what we're going to do is we're going to continue doing things in a similar manner, a vein, similar tonality to what we've already been doing. And that means that we're maintaining an abundance mentality and a buyer frame, of course, as opposed to a seller frame. We're going to avoid anything that could come off as insecure or as trying to impress her too much. We're going to keep things still very nonchalant and relatively light. It means that we're going to be concise and we're going to get to the point. Now, of course, we're not going to be rushing to the point, mind you. It needs to flow somewhat organically, but at the same time, we're certainly not going to be dilly-dallying around with like endless banter and back and forth. We're going to have a couple of back and forths. Then if that goes well, bam, straight for the close. So we're also going to be continuing to employ here prefabricated responses. However, there's also going to be room at this point to flesh it out with improv and a spontaneous commentary. In fact, sometimes there will be a need for it. Sometimes there won't, but now that you've got her engaged, now you can afford to start to invest a little bit. Now, of course, the bare fact that she replied actually doesn't mean jack shit in the overall scheme of things. So again, be careful here not to succumb to thinking like, oh, this is the one, she's the one for me, and get all worked up over it. You still want to maintain that professional distance, and by that, I mean be genuine and open up in the conversation, but you're still not taking it seriously. But now you can start to make little comments about specific things in her profile and so forth. But remember, we are still moving her through the funnel. So a couple things you can do here. I like to toss out little comments about her profile. I like to give ridiculous compliments. I like to qualify her subtly. If she says, any self-deprecating stuff, I might say, I accept you, username. Look, in any given interaction, there's an infinite number of things that someone could say, okay? But within that infinity, there is a finite subset of things that they typically do say. So there are a few ways that the girls will usually reply to your initial message, and these responses are actually going to dictate the direction that you want to take things. So having said all of that, what are some things that they might say when they reply? Well, first off, they might just not reply at all. Okay, and in this case, what I'll do is I'll just forget about it. Okay, we'll revisit this later, so let's put a pin in that for now. Now, another thing they might do is talk shit or give an actual negative response. Now, this is certainly better than nothing because she felt the need to engage you for whatever reason. Now, that reason might be that she genuinely thinks you're fucking retarded. But hey, there's a thin line between love and hate. In old pickup community parlance, this is what is colloquially referred to as a congruence test. And look, while a little bit of snarky banter back and forth can be fun, it's kind of a will we or won't we sort of thing, you do want to avoid getting into an adversarial frame. Okay, sometimes this can work, but it's risky. It's easy to take it too far, and then you just tip the scales off into full-blown acrimony, and it just fucking blows up in your face. So remember, you're not trying to prove anything. You're not trying to win. It's not you against her. Keep it fun. Bring value. The frame is the entire interaction from start to finish, that is sex, is going to be absolutely awesome for the both of you. So with the congruence test, your goal here is to simply pass it with the least amount of effort or qualification possible. That's going to be your only focus when you're presented with the shit test, the congruence test. You basically just kind of shrug it off and let her respond, right? I don't try to even move it from there. I let her re-engage if she wants to at that point. So if she gives me some shit test, I might say something like, is this the cyberbullying that I've heard about on the TV? Okay, I want to keep it funny. I want to keep it light. I don't get logical. I don't engage it logically or take it serious. If she insults you, I'll often take it over the top. If she asks me, are you this much of a douchebag in real life? I'll say, probably more. Opinions vary. right? You know, the display of lower value, the DLV, so to speak, that is a classic way to go, right? Sometimes I might say something like, wow, you're like the mean cool kids that used to make fun of me in high school. Are you Molly Ringwald? Thanks a lot. 3 years of therapy down the drain. Now I'm going to cry in the darkness while listening to Lionel Richie and putting cigarettes out of my dick like I do every night. All right, so, you know, that's another way to take it. Another one that I got from Alexander, one of our RSD coaches, he says, by X you mean Y. So she's like, you're weird. I'll be like, yes. And by weird, you mean awesome, right? She might say something and I just kind of dismiss it. I'll say, sorry, I don't speak Chinese, and then just change the subject. Another thing that you can do, I'll simply shrug it off. Let's be like, right. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. So in response to my initial message, which is, of course, oh, hi there, I feel that you appear attractive and consequently would like to explore the possibility of enhancing your life by means of exposure to my awesomeness. K, thanks, bye. It's a bit of a mouthful. Sometimes the girl will respond, she'll say, so what makes you so awesome? Right? Why are you so awesome? And here, what she's saying is like she's asking me to qualify myself, right? Like, well, because I do this and this. But my reply, she's like, why are you so awesome? I'll say, well, I'm not entirely sure, but if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say that it's most likely a combination of genetic predisposition and environmental factors such as upbringing. Again, I misinterpret her shit test. I misinterpret it to mean she's like, obviously you're awesome. How did this come about? Again, that's the kind of mindset you want to be in, right? Sometimes the girl will ask me, is that a copy paste? Now, if she asks me that, I actually say, well, actually it's a macro or a keyboard shortcut, depending if it's on the phone or whatever. It's actually less work. Yeah, like actually it's a macro. It's actually less work than copy paste. Another thing that they'll say a lot of the time is, how many girls have you sent that message to? In which case I just respond, countless, and then move it forward. Like say something else, change the subject. Another test that you'll see quite a lot is the let's fuck test, I call it, and there's several variants on the let's fuck test. Basically, the girl will say, yeah, you're hot, let's hook up and fuck, right? Or something like this, or they just take it sexual. And what they're trying to do here, I mean, a lot of guys, for the uninitiated, they might think like, oh, you know, she actually wants to hook up with me. They jump on the thread all eager, like some little puppy dog, like, oh, yeah, let's do it, right? A lot of times she's testing to see if you're going to do that, all right? Sometimes she might be genuine, but regardless, I'm still going to answer it in the same way. You know, I might say, she's like, let's hook up or whatever. I'll be like, well, I'm not opposed to the idea necessarily, but let's see how things play out, okay? Or I might just say, don't be vulgar. That's a favorite of mine, which is even more funny because I'm actually one of the more vulgar people that she'll probably meet. But, you know, I'll say, don't be vulgar. So that's an excellent way to pass the let's fuck test. Sometimes, though, it's just going to be a hostile, very aggressive, straight up insult. All right. I remember one time this girl sent me back the following. She said, I know about you. You're that tool with the creepy book. Why don't you go and catch a train to fuck Offsville? I simply replied with a one-word response, which was the word charming, and then I blocked her. Now, I posted this online somewhere, and dudes were asking me, why didn't you tool her with some comeback, Jeffy? You're so witty, you could have tooled her. It's like, dude, fuck, son. I ain't got time to be wasting time, okay? The program rolls on. The machine rolls on. After 11 years doing this game, you do develop a certain immunity to trolling, so to speak. If it doesn't advance the cause, it is ignored. And the energy that would have been used to respond is directed towards other leads, other opportunities, etc. I mean, I can say this as well after having engaged these types of people extensively in the past. I mean, look, I know it's very, very tempting to hit back, you know, it's human nature, you want to get the last word and all that, but you are not Batman, okay? You're not the arbiter of internet justice. So do yourself a favor and let it go. Just block the chick and direct that energy elsewhere. You'll actually probably end up living longer, okay? You have hypertension or some shit, okay? So anyway, so as we've said here, there's the possibility that she doesn't reply at all, and then there's the possibility that she gives you the congruence test, and that leaves us with two other possibilities here. They can either give a non-committal sort of matter-of-fact reply, and in this case, what I do is I simply move it along straight to the second prefabricated message, and I see if she bites on that. Or she can actually give some sort of positive or enthusiastic response. Now, if it's the enthusiastic response, I'll typically delve into whatever she said and kind of riff on it. Again, kind of flesh it out a bit in accordance with the tonality guidelines that we've outlined earlier in this section. And then after that, I'm simply going to move it right along to the second prefabricated response. So let's kind of get into that now, like following up on all of this. For my follow-up message, what do I usually send? She replies to my initial message. Well, I'm going to keep things generally the same way. I'm going to keep it light, simple, value-giving, fun. Again, I'm assuming that my profile has already done most of the heavy lifting, and the fact that she's even responding means that it's on, period. And this is why I personally don't advocate excessive gaming of the girl. You just want to establish a baseline of communication. You want to express a bit of personality to show her that you're not an idiot or a fucking lunatic, not at least in a bad way. And then you want to just take it right to the phone. Now, you can actually go to her profile now at this point and mine her content for conversation topics, right? So I might make allusions to things in her profile in sort of an oblique way, or a lot of the time I'll incorporate something from her profile into a joke, and we'll see examples of this later. You can use both her essay info and her pictures for this. At this point, you can actually start to inject more suggestive stuff as well, as long as you are not explicitly referring to sex or being overly crass. So another thing, I might ask her a simple yes, no, or multiple choice question, gently tease her about the response. These are all good ways to go about the second message, okay? Generally what I do these days is I'll send some funny compliment. And here are a couple of examples of things that I've sent in the past. I'll say, well, that's very cool and all, like regardless of what she says. That's very cool and all, but I'm not entirely sure how to proceed without more evidence that you actually know how to pet a tiger. A joking reference to every girl petting a tiger in the pictures. Again, here, I just want to see if she's going to continue to engage after the first message. That's kind of the only point of the second message. I might say, you look cool, will you go to the prom with me? I might give her a ridiculous compliment. Again, you're like a baby polar bear sliding down a rainbow into a pot of gold. You're similar to an angel in many respects. Not all, but many. You're like a kitten filled with love. I've never felt this connection before. I think you're the one. I want to open up, but I'm afraid. I've been hurt before. Again, you can do a little improvisation if necessary here, but flesh it out a bit, but keep it very minimal. As far as this is concerned, this whole improv thing, what I try to do, I'm going to try to match her level of engagement. I'm going to try to match her sense of humor while simultaneously staying true to my own style. Another thing is you want to be careful using sarcasm or dry humor because it can be misinterpreted very, very easily over the text. If you feel, if you feel that you need to, if there's any chance of it being taken the wrong way, feel free to add an LOL at the end of the sentence, just to make sure she knows it's a joke. If she says something and you think of something funny to say back, well, that's great. That's gonna deepen the connection, which is of course highly desirable. But ultimately, what do you want to do? We want to move them through the funnel, not jerk around. Okay, we just want to get them to the next stage. And as soon as you can see that she's investing, and by that I mean actually spending some of her precious time thinking about what to say back to you, well, when that happens, that's when it's time to move to the next phase. In fact, I found that if you dick around too much, it can actually kind of go stale, and she loses interest. It hits a tipping point. The same holds true in the phone phase. You want to move them through the funnel as quickly as possible. Now, ideally, in the message arena, this will ideally be 3 messages, 3 back and forths. But I find it more common that it will fall between a range of 3 to 10 back and forths at most. At most. Now, note, she does need to start investing at least a bit, or else there's really no point in going for the number. I mean, going for a number when she's not even invested, she might give it to you, but at that point, it's basically the equivalent of getting like some quickie number from the club once the girl you talked to for 3 minutes. So a lot of times what you'll see is they're very kind of non-committal. So if she's responding, but she's only giving short, non-committal answers to everything you say, well, What does that mean? You should infer from that she's actually not that into it. In that case, it means she's probably just fucking around on her computer at work. She's bored, dicking around on OkCupid for entertainment. So anyway, at this point, when I see we got a nice back and forth and a bit of rapport going, now I'm going to express the idea that we might go out. Okay? And I'll typically say this: may I be so bold as to inquire as to whether you might care to accompany me on a romantic date featuring magic in the mist. Okay? Note again my use of kind of overly formal language here. And here what this does, it serves to sort of hyperbolize the date and make it sound like this awesome otherworldly adventure. Okay? And you really want to do that. You want to exaggerate it. You want to make it sound like it's going to be this super crazy adventure from like another country or another dimension or some shit. You don't want to be like, derp, let's meet up. Derp. Right? So, again, embellish it. Make it sound fun. Make it sound exciting. And again, there's several ways you can do that. I've just given you one example of that here. Now, some girls are going to be ready to go just immediately. Others are going to need a bit more, but if it gets to be more than 10 messages, I'd say go for it regardless. A lot of times what you'll see is the girl will try to veer the conversation off in weird or like irrelevant directions. If she does that, I will address what she said obliquely, and then I'm going to steer it back the way I want it to go, which is, of course, man to woman moving towards the close. You want to always be steering towards the close in a persistent way, but not a needy way. Okay, if she doesn't take the bait, fine. In that case, she probably wouldn't have fucked you anyway, and in any case, you should have a massive amount of other leads on the go as well. Remember, one of the hallmarks of this program is what? Screening. Anything that doesn't pan out, you just simply delete it. Again, even though we're running her through a somewhat robotic funnel of premeditated messages, we don't want it to seem that way. Okay, the prefabricated texts are merely the skeleton to guide you along in a methodical way, but you also got to put some meat on the bones in order to cultivate the necessary connection so that she actually feels comfortable meeting up with you, a stranger from the internet. However, let me say again that some will just be ready to go right off the bat, and in those cases, understand that too much back and forth will actually kill it. So overall, the basic structure is going to look something like this. You send your initial message, she replies. Next, improv answer to her reply if needed, or if you see the opportunity to be funny or awesome or whatever, and then drop your second message. Okay? If she replies to that, improv again if you wish, being careful not to get off track, however, then send your third message. Okay, and this third message is going to reference, allude to, or probe, if you will, her openness to going out with you. And if she responds favorably to that, then you number close and take it to the phone. Hopefully by this point, the girl has expressed interest in the idea of going out with you. So the number close is basically going to be a formality. Now, very important here, most of the gaming, so to speak, needs to be taken care of at this point. Taking it to the phone simply serves as a solidification and crystallization of the interaction. Yes, we're going to continue to run game on the phone, but it's simply for arranging the presumed date and basically just not fucking up. So anyway, at this point, we're going to take it the fuck off of the web. Now, even in cases where she's not really necessarily going to be available anytime soon in the near future, right? She's like traveling, maybe I'm traveling. I'm going to try to take it to the phone as soon as possible and just keep it warm there, since it's a bit more real and it's a bit more personal in a way. Now, there are a couple of different approaches that you can take to getting the number close. But remember, the tonality rules are going to apply across the board at every single stage of the program. So again, you want to make it a statement, not a question. One thing I might say, I'll say, hey, here's my number, shoot me a text, right? And then I might say, here's my number, shoot me a text, or give me yours if you don't like to go first. Now this actually works for me because my number's funny. It actually spells out something that's quite amusing. I'm not going to share that with you because I want to keep my phone number. I don't want to be waking up in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. Like, ring, ring, hey, Jeffy, is your refrigerator running? Well, you better catch it, har, 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 right? So, but rest assured, my number's quite amusing. Another way that I've gone in the past is I'll say, all right, I'm sold. Let's hang out soon. Send me your number for romance arrangement purposes. So those are a couple good ways to do it. Now, at this point, she's either going to give you her number or, text you, or she's not. Now, if she doesn't, frequently what they'll do is try to change the subject, or she'll try to ask another question to get you to comply and move it along in a different direction. In my opinion, the only way to reply to this is no response. None. Not even bye, okay, just drop it. No chasing, okay? So at this point, once you go for the number, it's kind of like you've taken your dick out, right? And, it doesn't matter. You can tuck your dick back into your pants, but you and her both know that you had your dirty, smelly dick out in the room, right? It's kind of past the point of no return, right? So after that, it's on her to respond. That's my mentality. Additionally, you're working volume again, so it really kind of doesn't matter. If she changes her mind, then she knows where to go back and find you, okay? And she can re-engage. Again, you need to be fucking ruthless with this shit. Like a motherfucking ruthless villain, like Easy motherfucking E. Okay, again, not a dick, no butthurt comments. You just close it down if she doesn't comply. Remember, time is our only commodity here.